recording. Look at it, white to play. Okay. I think there are two general ideas that you have. Remember, we had done one of these similar position was there as an exercise during the L4 test. And the key was this. But here it does not work, unfortunately. Why it does not work? This is the otherwise the standard idea in such positions. But unfortunately, it does not work. Why? Why do you think it will not work? Remember this position, similar position, Madhura or Srishti from the L4 test? Only thing is that the pawn
is forced to retreat and then...
See, the key thing is the black's pawn and the white pawn. Finally, what is going to happen is the rook pawn is going to get created. Okay, for the pass pawn. If it was all this position was shifted one column to the left. Okay, so instead of h6 pawn, black had g6 pawn. And white had f4 and g4 instead of h4 and g4. Then it is very easy win. Because then white would have played g5 like in our test position there. And it is very easy win. But because it is rook pawn, it is not easy. Because black has got the defense. How will do black do the defense?
G7.
Yeah, let us try g7. And white will play, let us say f5. And black will play f7. And you will take this, but
then the key square is gone.
Key square is gone, right? Black has occupied the key square. Forget about preventing white. He has actually occupied the key square. So the moment black occupies this key square, then it's a draw for rook pawn. But imagine if this was the other way around. If this was not rook pawn, if this pawn was g5 pawn and white was on f5, then it is completely different. Right? So that is why the standard technique of putting the h5 pawn, I mean h4 pawn to above does not help. So then what does it help? Does it help to do like this? It doesn't help because this is standard draw. This is standard draw, right? You know this. How will black draw?
Black G7, King G7.
King G7, yeah. And if white comes ahead, then get the opposition. Right? This is standard draw. So neither of these techniques is working. So what does white do? White goes to the side to see if he can do something. Black also follows. Now, even now playing that h5 game doesn't help because same thing, black will come back and all. When you create the breakthrough, finally it's a rook pawn. And even pushing the g5 pawn does not help. So white, if it goes here, then black also follows. And white comes back, black will come back. But what if white goes to c4? Then
king e5.
Yeah, then king e5. Because now black is going to ensure that that he is going to win those pawns, and because of which white will be forced to push this pawn. Black will take it, you will take it, and then that's it. This pawn is gone. Right? So neither of these techniques is working when white is actually losing, because black holds the opposition, and this particular position, remember very clearly, only because it is a rook pawn, it is black is able to draw this with opposition. Okay. Now let us see if white it is not.
Sir.
Yeah.
Sir, this one only. Could you go to the place where black had to take the white pawn?
Black had to take the white pawn. Where? Okay, let's go back. Let's go back and see where. Which variation you are saying? It is white is playing first h5 or not? H5, king g7. This was not this, right?
Not this one.
Not this. Then other one was white was first playing g5. This also not this because it is clear draw. Then king to e4. Okay, maybe in the last variation you are saying black king goes to e6. Now white king goes to d4 and black king goes to d6. And now if white king comes back, then it is fine. But if white king goes to c4, then black king comes to e5. Here, where you saying here?
So when the white king pushes his constant.
Okay, g5. Black will take it.
Instead of hitting, why can't the Black
One and a half.
and
Yeah. Black king goes here. And you come here. Black pushes this pawn. Come here. Black king comes here.
so it's a draw.
Yeah, it's also a draw. Or black king does not need to come here. He can even push this pawn further. But you will drive the white king away and it is still a draw, right? It's still a draw. Right? Okay. So now let us see if in the same position, if white is actually, if it is black to play, then what happens? Board editor, and all we will do is say black to play. Black to play. Now black to play, what does black do? He cannot push the h5 pawn because this is a very simple win for white. Remember, remember never to take this pawn like this, because this can become a draw. Because black king is going to get to the key square of the rook pawns, and doesn't matter if you have two rook pawns. They're equally bad. So black cannot do this. So then what does black do? Let us say black plays this. And white plays this. Now, black.
F7.
F7. And white king goes to F5.
G7.
G7. Now it's crucial.
E6.
E6 or H5 or E5.
E6.
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 E6 and black king comes to G6.
Yes, sir.
Now black got the opposition.
Black has got the opposition, but what does white play? But white has got a winning move.
King E7.
King E7. Start going from the. Black king cannot do anything here, cannot advance, and he cannot push this. The moment he pushes this, then you push this and it's a one game. Because now black king cannot do anything for the G5 pawn. He will have to go all the way or he will be tied up. Because of which black king will go to G7 and now you get the opposition. How?
H5.
H5 now.
Blocking the G6.
Blocking the G6. So now you have got the opposition and now you are going to win this game. Right? So this was the technique, just to go back. In fact, this we should promote as the main line because the other line does not work. So black king goes to G6, white king goes to E5, and doesn't matter if black king goes to F7 or G7. It is a similar thing result. Right? Because even if he goes to G7, then also you are getting the thing. In fact, this is more stubborn. Then you are going back and forcing. This is not correct. So king to G7 and then H5. This is what it is. Anything else black does? See, at this point of time, if black king goes to G7, then it is very simple. Then already you go here. Then it is the same thing happens. You go here. Now black king goes to G7, you play H5 and again you are winning. Because you have got the position back with this extra tempo, right? So it doesn't help. And if black king goes to F7 and you come here, it goes to G7. No, after that we have seen it, right? It doesn't help. And anytime pushing this pawn is not going to help. Because white will not take this pawn, but just advance it. And then it is a win. Okay. So this position, remember it, understand it at depth, and remember it for life. So this is very crucial. Okay. All right. So so with that, we will end the thing here. There are a few more study examples, but you can look at it yourself in this thing. Chess endings for beginners, pawn endings, extra space, right? You look at it. This is just now what we saw. Okay, this is what we saw here. Then next ones, there are a few more, but that you can see. Actually, this is also important, but it is fairly easy to understand because black's king, the one who has advantage in pawns, his king is so much ahead of his pawns that because of that, he is able to easily win this. But it is worth going through the variations and understanding. This is also important because this technique you have to remember simple. Anytime, whenever it is like this, your king, whoever is trying to advance his pawns, your king should be to the side of the pawn, promoting which pawn is finally going to advance, right? More mobile. Because now what will happen is certain time exchange will happen. But after the exchange, white's pawn will be on D. D pawn will be there because E pawn will take the thing because E will take black, E will take D, white, E will take D, and finally white will have a D pawn. And that is what is to advance. So white has to move his king to the side there. And once he does that, so first move here is, once white has come here, after this, and remember now, in such position now it is not a rook pawn. So just advancing this pawn is simple. This easily wins. Earlier we had the problem only because it was a rook pawn. Okay. So remember these things. And there are 3 more, 9, 10, and 11. I think it is worth studying because there are some more concepts there. So, okay, you try to do it and then I will see whether I will cover it or not next time. Okay. All right. So with that, yeah, with that we have covered the extra space concept in thing. And now we will go into some, next week we'll go into some other things where transition into pawn endings, or we'll cover that. Okay. All right. So that is it. I will stop recording.